You are now listening to an exclusive interview on Sounds of Success with Noah Swiderski.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Sounds of Success. I'm your host, Noah Swiderski. Today, we're talking about building a legacy, literally. In a market as competitive as Greater Boston, your home is your biggest asset, and you don't leave that to chance. You leave it to experts who blend old school New England grit with modern day vision. We've got the man himself in the lab, the owner in the powerhouse behind Flaherty Contracting. James Flaherty is in the building. James, welcome to the show, sir.
How's it going, man? How you doing?
Excellent. Yeah. Super excited to have you on and talk a little bit about the foundation.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I was looking forward to this, so I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And so Flaherty Contract is built on a family-driven approach. How does that personal skin in the game change the experience for a Boston homeowner?
Yeah, well, we like to, I look at it as if it was myself, like I'd like to, who I'm hiring, I'd like to have that connection with them. I like interacting with homeowners. I love from first day meeting them, just telling them the vision, what they can do to their home. A lot of homeowners love their home. Like they're like, oh, do we have to move? We try to do our best to keep them in the home and make it work for them.
You're dealing with some of the oldest structures and toughest terrain in the entire country. What's the biggest challenge of building in Greater Boston that most people never see?
Yeah, probably the structure of the buildings, the homes. Like it's, we have good engineers and architects, but when you're actually out there and you actually demo the walls and you see what's behind it, it can be challenging, but one job brings experience to the next one. And then, you have I have a guy in the office, Dave Finney, with me, and he's 25 years in the business. He used to be a developer, and, I go to him for questions about stuff as well. And, it's just about having that, going through an experience with a bad structure and then just taking it into the next one.
A huge part of your growth comes from referrals. In an industry known for one and done type jobs, how have you managed to build these lifelong relationships with your clients?
It's very simple. It's just, getting out the door on good terms with the person that you've done the work for. We're very like, let's get out of there. But you got to get out of the job on, when I say good terms, I mean, you punch out your job. You do your punch list, you do everything that you need to do to get out of it. Your blue, they call it the blue tape in, the punch list, but that's good for you and the homeowner because there's none of these, lagging jobs left over, the cabinet door is not on, you just bang the job out basically. And then
100%.
What we find a lot is the communication is massive, from the start when you're doing you're estimating, and that's where you're building a lot of trust with the homeowner. They see that you're organized and you take that into the job and you hopefully leave on good terms. And you hear of all these horror stories homeowners do, I hear them talk about, oh, we heard about this horror story, so that helps when they refer us to someone else. They didn't have that experience. So that's how it goes for us.
Sounds like you really do build that amazing first impression because you only get one chance at it, and developing that over years is something that you guys do really well. When a client comes to you with a massive dream, but a fixed type budget, how do you help them prioritize the build without losing the soul of the project?
It's basically getting them to realize that this, the big project that they're looking to do and their budget is not matching up. We can scale it down, but keep it to that vision that they want, and unfortunately that's how it works out. It's all down to the dollar, we have good architects involved with us, and we bring them to the table, and they make them feel at ease, and they make it work for them.
I love that. And what I'm really interested to know, especially with your business, is how do you balance those old school New England aesthetics with the modern technology and energy efficient type builds that today's buyers are demanding this year?
Yeah, you have to roll with it, You have to have, as a contractor, you have to have a vision of a designer as well. It's not just like, let's build this and get out of there. You have to have the vision of, it helps to have the same vision as the homeowner and understand and study what's going on nowadays. It's very important, like, to, like, at the weekends, excuse me, I'll turn off this. At the weekends, you need to educate yourself on what's happening in the world, in the Boston area, on the newest looks and all that. I have a love for construction and transformations, like, so at the weekends, if I get a chance, I'll be checking up on reading up on things and stuff like that. So hopefully that answers your question.
Construction is notoriously stressful for many families. What specific systems do you and your team use to keep the process predictable and enjoyable?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So we actually have this platform, House Pro, and it's a platform where all of our communication is in this one platform, and the day of, like, texting homeowners and calling them or using your personal email, that's gone. So this platform, you're able to, like, interact with the homeowner. They have, like, a mood board in there where they can bring in the materials that they're looking to use, and that's how we try to keep them engaged in the project, and get them comfortable in it, for organization and everything else. And we do walkthroughs with homeowners as well, different stages, like, and it gets them excited, and we like to see that as well, because a good vibe through a project. Now, listen, every project isn't 100%, stress-free, like, but you learn from your last one, and we brought that through, and we feel like when there's good vibes with everyone, it goes nice and smooth, If you do things, it's like this. If you do accordingly, you do correctly, and you go by the book, you try to get out of there on good terms,
I know a ton of different business owners that are looking to buy homes this year, next year, and even within 5 years. For someone looking to build a custom home from scratch right now, what is the number one piece of advice you'd give them before the first shovel hits the dirt?
Location. Yeah, just location. Get the location and run your numbers. That's all I say. Location and run your numbers. Just another thing would be, I wouldn't look into too much of the square footage, like, you hear a lot of people, homeowners, saying, "Oh, can I get it done on this square footage?" I would get your location first and then go out, look for those numbers,
From a business perspective now, which specific renovations are currently giving your clients the highest return on their investment? Is there one in particular?
Yeah, your home edition, definitely, it's a very simple one, and it works out for the homeowner as well, because what we see is a lot of them they're in good areas, and they're dipping into their HELOC, right? Which is working out for them. They have money to do the construction, and they're adding, value to their property as well. Plus they're adding square footage for their family. Like, so it's like a win-win, and, or else people just have, they have their money saved up to do the addition, like, and that's the biggest one, And listen, everyone, most people love the area that they're living in, like, so we don't talk ourselves out of jobs, like, but we just talk reality to the homeowner, and they're thankful for us to mention that to them.
100%. I think that's something that's not talked about enough, is the adding value to their home. It's already an investment they've made. Now they're just increasing that. So,
yeah.
And you had mentioned, you talk about skilled hands in a world of fast and cheap labor. How do you find and keep the craftsmen who actually take pride in the framing and the finishes.
Yeah, it took a while. It takes a while to build a team. It's just about honesty. If you're not honest with yourself, if they're not honest with themselves, they just get caught out. Like, so you kind of figure it out who the good guys are in the end, and we're lucky enough to have a good team involved with us. But we've gone through the process of guys not giving 100% and not understanding our process. At the end of the day,
Absolutely. Yep.
at the end of the day, you try to trust a subcontractor and give them the benefit of the doubt, and we're built on honesty. We love that word. So
amazing. Love that you guys have those values. It makes it easy to spot the good ones out of the bad and
absolutely
keep growing.
Yeah, definitely. And you'll recognize good craftsmen as well. Like, even on the job site, you just, I'm always, I'm supervising on a few jobs as well, and you just see that they love their job. Like, so when you see that, they're going to take pride in their work, and then their work, is our work. So
exactly. You want great work attached to your name. That's definitely the key to growing success. Now, you say every home tells a story. What is the story you want people to tell about a home built by James Flaherty 50 years from now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, you'd want them to remember the experience that they had, and when their kids are like 5 or 6, when you do the addition, when they're like 20, they'll remember, like, oh, do you remember doing this? Do you remember that Irish contract there? That's about it, really. As long as they're happy and all of their health is good, that's 100%. If I see them down the road and they say hi, great.
Building that relationship's a key. As I'm sure you've seen many generations kind of come after you, you've built something. So that's incredible, building that staple name. Now, where can people find you? Where can they hear from you, work with you, collaborate with you? Where can they make that next step?
Yeah, so they can get us on our website at Flaherty, www.flaherty.com. Instagram is a big one for us as well. They can drop a message on my Instagram, and my cell phone's on my website as well. So that's where they can get us. And we're big on reaching out to people. Whoever gets in touch with us, I like to get in touch with them ASAP.
That is how you build for the long haul. Huge thanks to James Flaherty for showing us what real craftsmanship and transparency looks like in the Boston market. If you're ready to turn your vision into a reality that stands the test of time, James is the man to call. As for us, we're back to the hustle, chasing ROI and hitting the list. I'm Noah Swiderski, and this is Sounds of Success. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you, man.